that's Rendelle says about 2 hours of viewing away from being monetized, so that's going to be one of our main funding sources too.
Oh, hi. Hey, hi there. This is Rendelle from Uncivilized Vitality, and we are trying something new. We're at the Preppers Picnic in, hey, what town are we in? What town are we in? Oh, this is Swartz Creek. Okay, so we're in Swartz Creek, Michigan. We've never done a live before, so we're like, hey, let's check a box and see if this works. And Dr. Morey is doing a presentation. He's already started. Say hi, Mrs. Morey. And we're popping in on that because, like I said, this is something new, and we're going to try to figure this out, but we'll see what he's teaching.
Whatever you want to do, that's your business, right, with the sling. So I've got those things over there, and I can go into some more detail, but George had a question. What is CBT? Cognitive behavioral therapy. Yeah, so it's sort of stoicism. So a lot of the self-sufficiency that we teach is based on the fieldcraft, and there are 8 families of tools that are common to all human societies. And I came up with something called the SBO theory, which is the sociobiological organization. I'm an anatomist. I teach that all living organisms start out from ecosystems are composed of various organisms, of which you are one. And organisms are composed of organ systems, which are made up of organs, which are made up of tissues, which are made up of cells. If you need a healthy ecosystem or organism, you need a healthy cell. So I teach you how to eat right, move right, sleep right, that sort of thing. And then just the same way human beings are organized socially from the individual, the family, the community, subcultures, cultures, and then societies. Nowhere in that hierarchy is there a civilization. Civilization is a corrupting process of normal human society that benefits a few as opposed to the many. It's a hierarchy that's based upon a limitation of resources and the population control. And I go into that more in the book. I don't want this to turn into like a political stump speech or anything, but Uncivilized Vitality weights human society toward the individual. And if you think of that as a circle, up at the other end is collectivism, communism, Marxism, that sort of a state, right? Like the pristine state that started 6,000 years ago, where they stick us in cities and we live via agriculture as opposed to the other 4 cultures. So I define culture as the way we get food. So you have hunter-gatherer cultures, you have pastoral cultures, you have cultures based on fishing, and you have cultures based on agriculture, growing and staying in one place with the city. The 5th culture is reavers. We don't really have that anymore. That's the people that just steal from the other cultures, right? Like bandits and Huns.
I think we got some of those.
Yeah. So, but as you started living in cities, agriculture became the dominant culture on the planet, and with that comes hierarchy and organization of society, and all the ills that come with the unintended consequences. Too much comfort, too much control, too much conformity, disease, and you sometimes are taught historically, like Thomas Hobbes said, that life before civilization was nasty, poor, brutish, and short, and that's not true at all. I mean, it wasn't quite Rousseau, where it's the noble savage. We weren't living in paradise. There's problems, right? But we were definitely better off before we were organized into hierarchies. Most societies live in social circles. You may be closer to that circle, like your own family. If you're a mother, your children, you're the center of that social circle. But you may also work in an office somewhere, and you might be on the periphery of that circle. The civilization turns that process vertically and makes hierarchies, the better to control and keep everyone underneath fighting according to their lower order needs. Maslow put us in an order of needs: the physiological, right? Being healthy, you're breathing, you're not bleeding, just physical health. Then you have your physical safety, your safety needs, being able to sleep somewhere safe so the predators or other things don't get you, some financial security. Once you've met those 2 lower order needs, people work on self-esteem. I have people that like me, and I like other people. Then, if you can match those needs, the organism, the human, starts to move up to love and belonging, then self-respect and self-esteem in the neighborhood, and then you move to self-actualization. And we are kept from realizing our full potential by being overly focused on survival and our lower order needs. Anybody have enough money?
Sure.
Have enough security?
We have enough.
Right?
We're here. What's enough?
Well, you know what I'm saying. That's relative. But it generally keep you kind of fighting for little things. Anybody have a private jet? 2 yachts? 3 houses,
Don't need all that.
right?
Would
You
like
don't need all
One
that.
of those throw money at?
But one of the things that civilization does is concentrate some of the resources. So some people have way, way, way too much, and other people don't. And before you mistake me, I have that is not communism or socialism at all. It's the opposite of that. You need a healthy, happy individual so you can have a healthy, happy society. All societies before civilization seem to get along just fine. There's some population issues and a lot more detail to this than I'm going into, but that's what the book's for. So there's a brief, really quick overview, and then it's usually easier. This is how I teach class at the college. I do 15 minutes at the beginning of the 5-hour lecture, and then we just roll with questions. Oh yeah, so there's 8 family of tools that are common to all human societies. The first one is clothing. That's your cover element. It's your primary tool, right? Like I joke on the YouTube that we're not survivalists because with all the fishing and all the doodads, if you're wearing the proper clothing and you just curl up around a tree at night and don't die, you're a survivalist. And having the proper clothing is important. Proper shoes, even though I'm not wearing any. Hat, right? Clothing, we have this multi-hood I use over there like a shawl. Tarps, tents, that sort of thing. So always start your tools around your proper clothing. That's 90% of it. Because core regulation is the first thing that'll, core temperature regulation is the first thing that'll cause you to die in an emergency. Yes?
So tents are part of clothing?
I would put tents under clothing. So when I did these tools, there's kind of categories. I call them families. You guys know that family comes from the Latin famulus, which means servant. So your family is your first servant. They teach you how to behave in society, how to get along in society, how to form communities and relationships. So these tools are families. The second one is the container. That's important. It's usually symbolized by just a steel container, something you can purify and transport water, because that's the next most important item in an emergency. I skipped over it, but the
Can you say the word skibbity?
skibbity,
That works. Thanks.
what is that?
I don't
Are
know.
you doing that thing?
I am. Somebody asked you to say it.
Rendelle likes when we say smash the like button. Okay, got that tomfoolery out of the way. There's the rule of 3s. You guys know the rule of 3s.
No.
All right, in an emergency or in life, you've got 3 minutes to deal with bleeding and breathing issues, or it's over. Like the guys that just came before me, the trauma, that's not really talked about much in preparedness or survival. Everybody kind of says, well, I've got my first aid kit from Walmart. That's the ouch pouch, a boo-boo box. It doesn't do anything to keep you alive. Those guys are who you need the training from.
That's true.
Yeah. 3 minutes. After that 3 minutes, you've got 3 hours to defend yourself from exposure. Too hot, too cold, too something, you lose it. You deal with the first aid, you deal with the shelter. That's 90% of it. Now you've got 3 days to get potable water or get proper sleep and rest. Then you're good. Then you got 3 weeks to get food. I know that sounds fantastic, but you're going to be miserable, but you won't die if you don't eat for a couple weeks. Most people don't believe that. Some of us I could get a month easy, but we'll talk about that in the book. Then you've got 3 months before your social isolation can take a toll. So it goes in rules of 3s, and our tools are designed to address those needs in order. So the clothing takes care of the core, and the breathing and bleeding element is handled by our first aid kit. Second tool is the bottle, because you need the water. The third tool is going to be cordage. You can replicate cordage, twine, rope, string out in the woods. It's easy. You can make it out of these corn. It just is time consuming. It's always good to have. I always have 6-8 feet of paracord in my pocket or everywhere, and I was able to tie that down, so that's handy. You can use it for all sorts of things. After you get cordage, you need to make fire and have light. Carry a small pocket flashlight with you at all times. If you carry a personal firearm, you must have a light with it, a second mag, and a tourniquet. They go with the pistol, plus a holster to find things. Always have a light, a glow stick, a flashlight, headlamp, a pocket lighter, a ferro rod, some way to start fire. And then we teach about fire safety, being prepared to fight it before you light it, that sort of thing, especially with our kids groups. And then the 5th tool is going to be to cut and dig. This is usually what people jump to erroneously. They want a big survival knife. I always have 2 or 3 knives on me. I got one here. That's about as big a knife as you need. That with a saw and a hatchet. You don't need a big Rambo knife. Unless some of you are selling knives at your booth, in which case, yes, go buy a knife. You don't want to step on any toes. Right? Got to have something to cut and dig with. You're going to move more earth in the woods than you will ever cut wood. especially if you're out in the desert or in the snow. You got to have a good shovel or trowel with you. I have one in my Jeep. I should have brought it, but I didn't want to bring all my toys over. The next tools are more compound. We talk about the sling and spear. These are tools that you would either protect yourself or provide food. So it's literally a sling and a spear, or better is a Glock, and then maybe a slingshot or a hunting rifle. One second, buddy. I'll get the other tool out before I lose my track. Then you have the salt and needle tools. This is a family of tools that is for self-care and gear care. Literally a bag of salt and a needle, or a full trauma kit. Those are tools you have to have. Duct tape works good too for gear repair. And then the last tool is the book. Now, pre-civilized humans didn't have the written word. That's the definition of history once we started to record things with symbols. But the book represents any way to transmit and disseminate information, right? Across time and space. Exactly. It used to be songs, used to be legends and myths and tales. Now it's YouTube and books, right? So it could even be your smartphone. So I'm not advocating that we go back to living in caves and trees like before civilization, but we can definitely get some lessons from it and make your life better now. And then there's some other things there too. The third book will address more of the philosophical and political ramifications of living in a pristine, or not pristine, but a state, and how to keep out of that as best you can. Mostly this group here would probably be well prepared for that. What was your question, buddy?
It's not a question.
What was your statement?
The spears and the things that you can throw up for ranged weapons.
That's right, different ranges. So for 36 years now, I have a 5th degree black belt. I've taught martial arts professionally. I ran schools for many years. I've been teaching at college since '91. I travel around the country and teach at workshops. And so one of my main areas of interest is physical violence and self-defense. And we talk about different ranges. And the sling is really good for that. I can touch you from way over here with a rock or something to protect myself. Like I joked earlier, disperse crowds, chase somebody off your property, and it's a good non-lethal option. Although it can be lethal if you do it right, know how to use it. So we have a YouTube video about that. I got my wife to pick the sling up and throw that on video, and she mastered it in about 2 minutes. I was able to sling those rocks. You get a group of people that are young, frail, elderly, other handicaps. If you were in a situation where you had to defend an area, you stick them on a hill with some slings and a pile of stones. You need no skill except to turn that circle and throw it.
You may have to learn how to duck.
Yeah, and if you've got stones, like 100 stones raining down on you from a group, like he said, ranged weapons, it's super effective. We do events in our group. We have a local group, thus the uniform. It's kind of like adult scouting. And we practice the stuff in the book. We meet each month, and we, as a community, to support like-minded individuals. They get happier and healthier, follow these rules. We have patches you can earn when you work your way through some of our events. We go out camping, hiking, canoeing, spelunking, rattlesnake hunting. We do all sorts of stuff.
Where are you doing all this?
We're based in Flint Township here at out of my clinic. Downstairs I use for a teaching shop and all the storeroom. The spear points on the arm, you learn those by doing lifestyle changes. So your movement, your nourishment, restoration, hygiene, community have things in the handbook that you can do to slowly change your life and learn about healthier habits, so you can stay healthy and stay out of the doctor's office and out of the hospital and save a ton of money. A lot of folk medicine, the stuff that's legit. And then we have these ability beads. There's 23 in total, and these are for mastering things like knots and shelter building and fire safety and cutting and digging. And then we have a few of the durability beads, things like the silent tree, where you have to remain at camp and not talk for 6 hours, which is way harder than you'd think, especially in a group of people just laughing and talking. That lets you deal with that psychological urge to put your 2 cents in and talk. We have the cold weather bead, Rendelle's bead. She's got a tiny little skull because she got a special one because it was 25 below for her camp. So anything that's 20 below and you spend out there for a couple of days, you get a special bead. If it's just 10 below or 5 degrees, you get a regular bead.
Side note, we bailed because he got cold.
That's true. But I didn't bring a coat or sleep
But that
bag.
was
a
on
mistake.
like day 3. So
Yeah.
First 5 again ended with community. You went through them fast.
So the 5 paths,
Five
yeah, I
paths.
tend to do that.
Yeah.
5 paths to wellness are movement, nourishment, restoration, hygiene, and community.
Okay.
I'm used to talking fast. I'm sorry about that. I do lectures 2 hours at a time. I just talk real quick, and the students have to listen and pay attention. And I try to change topics real fast so they have to not fall asleep.
What do you mean by restoration?
Restoration. So restoration is a word that means rest or recreate or restore.
Oh, okay.
So it's advice on sleeping and proper rest. Here's another hour you should do every day. You need to spend an hour by yourself. No phone, no book, no distraction. Daydream. Do something. Spend time with your thoughts and get used to it. We're so distracted now. That's another civilizing tactic to keep you distracted at all hours, so you never think about the plight you're in or how bad your health is. We also have the golden hour. You can do the hour on the ground, the hour outside, the hour alone. You can do it all at once. Just go outside and sit down every morning. Get the sunlight on you, get the wind, the weather, and spend a little time with your thoughts, which is difficult for most people to do. The advice is really simple. They're mostly tip of the iceberg style of information that I unpack in the book. My nourishment advice, because that's a very heavily fraught subject, and over at my office for patients, I'll pull blood and run 50 or 60 labs and use supplements or different medications to balance things out. But if you boil it down to its basic essence, the 3 steps are: eat real foods, eat on purpose, and occasionally don't eat. So I teach you about fasting and the physiological benefits. And that might seem kind of trite, kind of small, but then I unpack it in the book. Skipping a meal here and there is great. I only eat 10 months out of the year because I take 24-hour fast once a week, 72 every season, and a couple 48s if I overindulge in cream or whatever on Friday night. And I do that, and it's maintained my weight, my blood sugar, all my labs are in perfect order. I'm 53 years old. Everything's better than when I was in my 20s, when I lived on Mountain Dew and McDonald's, right? Don't do that anymore. Follow my own advice. Real foods, if you can't grow it, pick it, catch it, kill it, don't eat it. It's that easy. Box, can, that sort of thing, just avoid it. And then eat on purpose means don't be led by your appetites and your habits. Like in America, we've been taught to eat 3 meals a day. Before World War II, 2 meals a day was the standard. Even just one big meal and then a light snack. That was the norm in this country for hundreds of years and overseas. After World War II, and we learned to preserve foods, and we came up with K rations, right? That was Ansel Keys, the guy that came up with the heart health hypothesis and cholesterol, which is nonsense, by the way. He was in on that. He did a study over 21 countries to see what they ate and who had the most heart disease. And it turned out that the more cholesterol they consumed, the better their heart health. So he cherry-picked the information and called it the 7-country study to prove that heart health was affected by fat intake. It's not. It's sugar. But the sugar industry makes more money, right? Because you can preserve foods on the shelf that'll last for a long time. It's a terrible idea to eat sugar or sweets. Box food. Anyway,
Okay,
read about
so this is a learning lesson for us. I can see your comments, and thank you guys.
They don't want you to grow your
Don't know how to respond to them, but I'll look into that.
They know
Most of what Maury's talking about is what is in that book and what we go out and we do. So you watch our videos and you are going to see us doing these things. And really we're just inviting you along because these are things we're going to do with or without you watching. We're just trying to fund the not-for-profit side of things. With that, we are 2 hours away from being funded. So if you can watch our videos, watch this video. I'm not quite sure what this live business is, but we'll figure it out later. With that, peace out, stay uncivilized.
More incumbent upon you to learn how to take care of yourself. The sooner the better.